Great. Welcome to Practical Emotional Intelligence Conversations. It's a bright morning on a Saturday, and we have, yeah, it just Saturday today. People have forgotten what they have the week.
We are losing track.
I thought it was Friday.
I have a doctor's appointment, so I remember. It's only once in a month you get to go out. I think in that 1 month. So anyway, great. Thanks for joining, Nikki. And you have Pragya. Welcome both of you.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome guys. So Nikki, this is your first time on the call. Pragya has been on the call a few times. The intention of these calls is that we just pick up a topic now. There is nothing that we come pre-prepared with.
Right.
Whatever is in the moment we are feeling like talking, we just put this topic out in the group and we all just talk about it. So
Right.
this is not a coaching, counseling. We are not advising each other. There is nothing like that. It's just like some friends sitting together and having a conversation.
Right.
That's the intention of this call.
Lovely.
So since you are new, anything you have in mind, any topic you would like to suggest?
I don't have a mind only anymore.
So
Wow.
the only thing is that the topic has to be around mindfulness or emotional intelligence. That's the only criteria.
Right.
So we are not discussing politics.
Okay, I must warn you.
Or movies.
No, but I must warn you that you have a comedian on board just now.
Yes.
So be prepared.
We're more than happy.
And we would love to hear more from you on that.
Yes.
I'll try to be a mindful comedian.
Oh.
So okay, I'll suggest. I know that you talk a lot about diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
How about we discuss that?
It would be nice.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So just before you start,
Okay.
I just asked the question to
Yes.
Pragya. Pragya, are you okay if we go ahead with this topic?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Great.
Yes, Nikki. Tell us.
So Nikki, you said that it's a very wide topic, and I agree with that. So why don't you narrow it down for us as well? Just pick something in that.
Okay. Sure. So let me start then perhaps by, introducing a little bit of what I do. I mean, the perspective that we have on diversity and inclusion. Now, I've been a mental health worker since 10 years. So I've been primarily working in the field of mental health, which started for people with obviously mental health issues who are, survivors or who are currently going through something. And of course, I've worked with various communities. Now, one of the most prominent, main communities that I have worked with, which is people with disabilities, people who are user survivors of mental illnesses like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and then people from the queer community, the LGBT community. So, in working with all of these communities, now all of them fall under the diversity and inclusion factor. And because we work with corporates, because, there's a lot of corporate social responsibility that goes towards, corporates play a big role in bringing about change in society. So what we realized, some of my key learnings I can share today and observations.
Yeah.
Many people always ask me that, why do you need to, represent the queer community or disability community? When we speak about representation, there is no community that really wants to put themselves out there and constantly ask for acceptance, and inclusivity. But what happens is, because we have, over the centuries, culturally, socially, through our education systems, we are raised in certain ways with a certain set of beliefs and perceptions. And as we grow, if we are not exposed, we are not inquirers as individuals, then, and we take no effort to learn and understand beyond what we have been taught, that itself leads to the lack of inclusion and diversity. So while these are just two words, for many spaces they are part of CSR programs, but we need to look at it from including this in our daily life. Now there are so many, unconscious biases that we have that become a part of us over the years as we grow as an individual. And when we go out and interact with others, these behaviors impact our social life, impact all our relationships, and impact the people around us, thus leading to some people feeling out of place, some people feeling bullied, or some people feeling isolated. This is what happens when there is lack of diversity and inclusion. So we look at diversity and inclusion beyond just a CSR program or a workshop or a session. We look at it just like they say Ayurveda is a way of life. It's not something that you can go and you can go and get one panchakarma, let's say a treatment for 15 days or 30 days. But if you go back to your old routine and habits, then it has made no sense, right? There's no point having gone through that kind of therapy. So D&I must also become a part of us, and this is where mindfulness plays a big role in diversity and inclusion. Because when you become more aware of your actions, when you become more aware of your thoughts, of the way you're putting yourself out in society and for others, and how it is impacting them and bouncing back to you, that is where mindfulness plays a key role, in the sense of what we say to people, how we treat people, what kind of things we say to people, and these are all unconscious biases. So the key thing is to become conscious, more conscious and aware of our actions, of our thoughts, of how we're putting ourselves out there. This is
I have one question.
A little bit of perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
How do we decide diversity? What is the criteria to decide diversity?
Right. There is no such criteria. There's no criteria. What is the meaning of diversity? Let's give a scenario. Yes. Let's take a scenario. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, you're a queer person. Okay. And you need to go out there and prove to the world in whatever way that you are just one of them, and you need to be treated with the same level of acceptance. You can choose your actions and your job or your education or your lifestyle as per your decision and choice, right? But we are not always allowed to do that because we are so afraid of constant stigma, of isolation, of people not wanting to be in our company. So what do you do then? That is the time that there are two things that happen. Either a person goes into complete isolation, which leads to depression and loneliness, because this person is not brave enough or bold enough, or does not have the opportunity to communicate effectively with others how they are. Or what happens is that you become this bold, outgoing person who might become an activist who's fighting for your rights, who's fighting for acceptance. Okay? So there is no way to say that there's a criteria for diversity. Diversity is in an ideal world is a place where we all live together harmoniously, without any perceptions of one another, without any judgments of one another, and by totally accepting one another the way we are. If we are able to do that, there's absolutely no need for all of these jargons, and man-made modules to deal with these things.
Hmm.
The larger problem is that
there wouldn't be any need to talk about
absolutely.
inclusion because it would be just by default everything is included.
Absolutely. So let's say if we are speaking of a person who has a disability, okay, let's say who is on a wheelchair, right? Now in a country, especially like India, which has very limited access for people with disabilities, a person who can use their hands, their brain is fully functional, they have, they are able to do certain type of jobs that are suitable to them or convenient for them, still does not have access to such jobs because we are not inclusive. It's a very common thing, like a person with a disability goes out and they say, "Arey, how did you come over here? Arey, what are you doing over here?" There's your lack of diversity and inclusion, first level. That a person who is different than you cannot be out there.
Pragya and Swati, also I would like to hear your views from your experience on this topic.
Sure. Like about the diversity and the inclusions, if I talk about, after I completed my graduation and moved to Delhi, like my first two companies, that was IBM and Dell. Okay, so there I was exposed to all the communities that Nikki has spoken about. Okay, so it was all a new experience for me. Okay, and had it been the situation that I was not exposed into that working environment, could be a possibility that by now I would not have done the acceptance or anything as such for any of these different a person with a disability and everything as such. In IBM, we had a trainer, a voice and accent trainer, who was blind. Okay, but he was one of the excellent trainers, and he never happened to take any help of us as a trainee or his co-trainers in order to move ahead from one training classroom to the other. He was doing everything independently. And there were certain policies also into the corporates, if I talk about, okay, that any person who is coming with a disability or is from LGBT community or like the third category I have not been exposed to, that I can say that, okay, they have some kind of a mental illness or a problem, and then the company has given them an equal platform to work, okay. However, the first two communities, if anyone has made any kind of nuisance comment onto them, okay, or have tried to help them when they are not willing to take anything as such, okay, there was no third thing that, okay, fine, that employee will continue any further into the company. It was a strict violation of certain terms and conditions which we were signing up onto our appointment letters. And any person who is crossing their lines in order to go ahead and help them without their willingness, or who were making any kind of comments onto them, they were asked to leave immediately, no matter even if that person was heading the complete operations or anything as such, irrespective of their positions. So that was one of the things, okay, which was there into those corporates. However, if I look at my current company, so there happens to be one of our employees whom we have done all kind of telephonic discussions, interviews and all, okay. And during the course of the discussions, interviews and all, he did not happen to mention that he has certain issues in terms of walking itself, that's it, nothing else, okay. But otherwise he was completely fit to do the work and everything. And when he first joined the organization, then we got to know that this is the issue or the problem that person is facing. And I was the first one to take it to my operations head, saying that this should not affect the work that you have hired him to work, okay. And we should continue with this person without any biasness or without anything as such, okay, fine, that he could be treated equally as the other employees. But other than him, if I talk about in my complete, like close to 400 employees, we do not have anybody apart from this to be included.
Right. Swati, you want to share something?
Honestly, I've not came across such a situation as I'm working in manufacturing. So I don't know why, but my earlier organization, even though current organization has no such practices, like, It's not that we won't accept, but it's just that we have not came across such a situation where we need to think on all these aspects. Yeah, we have policy for the sake of having it, but there is no such an employee in the organization. For us, diversity and inclusion is only for the ratio of female versus male. That all initiatives we take and we work on it. Like we have some corporate guidelines also, what to do, how to do, and in which department we can include, which department we cannot. So such all things. But then not for the other categories. I had not came across such a situation yet.
Manufacturing is very much a male-oriented area as well. So you didn't come across?
Yeah, it is. So honestly speaking, in the plants, when I had joined in my first organization, it was a greenfield project, 26 acres greenfield project in Shirwal, which is, towards Satara, Mahabaleshwar, I can say, on that highway. So, but then I was the only girl in that plant. So then later on we had transferred some employees and there were a total around 519 employees. But I was the only girl who used to work late nights, who used to leave office by, 2 o'clock at night. I used to have driver who will drop me and all, a lot of things were there. So these kind of all safety measures and all were there. But I agree to you, there were a lot of males. So then afterwards, after some days, because it was greenfield project, my manager, when he had hired me, I clearly now remember that his intention was hiring the male candidate. But when he interviewed me and he was like, no, I wanted to go for girls because girls are more focused and they can contribute more, this and that. But he was not sure that I'll work on that 26 acres corporate site. I'll handle that contract labors and their compliance and a lot of project-related parts. And it was my first job. I was trainee there. I did my best. So till date, it's like, that is an experience when my manager had felt like, no, girl can do better and I should hire her because she had done a good interview and she was the best. So this kind of, I had gone through very nice experiences. In my first organization, second organization, it was never ever that we don't want to hire a lady. Though it was a manufacturing. But I never came across such a situation. Yeah, some point of time it happens, like few positions wherein it is a production head or production supervisor. There we don't prefer female candidates. I mean, while giving it to consultant or while searching on portals, we don't search for female candidates. But till date, if someone came across to me and that lady is really, that strength she has and she is that much competent, I had recruited and I had asked them to work in shifts as well. So, and we have such strong policies for them. We had such strong facilities for them. Even though in contract, I had around 40 ladies who were working in shifts, third shift, second shift, first shift. So, I don't think so it's a challenge. Nowadays, people are accepting it. They are mindful about it. But not all manufacturing, I can say, but automotive sector had bit restrictions on these terms, I can say. I can't comment in this way. It's very blunt, I can say, or upfront, but still, automotive sector has bit resistance to it. Pharma and FMCG or other industries like food industries, they are very much acceptable to it.
I was going to ask you this question that although your manager hired you thinking that you will bring some unique qualities there, but then again, you were working with primarily male employees over there. What was their reaction towards this? So they, the other side of the table also is important to know. So how was how did they treat?
See, the respect. I had worked with blue collars a lot because my primary task was for them to transfer them, to do a lot of things with them. to take care of them, to take care of their family and their household things and a lot of things, because they were transferred from Mumbai to Shirwal. So you can understand the kind of pain they had at that point of time. But then I never ever felt humiliated or she's the girl, she won't be able to do this and that. Might be I had proven that I used to extend my hours like anything. It's like Saturday, Sunday, daily 11 o'clock was my normal time. And touch wood, my family had supported me that time, though I was a female and I used to travel one way 86 kilometers. Still my family had supported, like, okay, you're coming late night, that's fine. It's your job, it's your first job, this and that. But it is difficult. Somehow it might have been difficult because, handling blue collars and their issues and, that time the situation was also different. They were coming from Mumbai to Shirwal. They were not getting a lot of things. And they had their own family issues. A lot of people had their own. Someone had their family. Someone had came single, and those kind of things. Like that frustration they used to remove on me, for sure.
Were they okay? Were they open to discuss their problems openly with you? Like, I'm interested to know that. Were they expecting that it would have been easier if it was a male person in your
No. I never got this kind of experience. No. Yeah, I got some negativity, I can say, or some comments on my experience because I was fresher and I was handling a big task of a transfer of around 300 employees with their families and kids and all. So that was a bit difficult because experience counts in that those all things. But then I used to manage and no one had such complaints that, she's a female, that's why she's not able to manage. So that is what I feel. So after this experience, I feel any girl can do anything, though she's married or she's unmarried, or she has some family issues, or she was divorced, or anything like that, any emotional challenges, anything. So though we had a lot of hormonal changes, a lot, I can say, than men, but then we can do anything, because it's just the willpower and the opportunity and the kind of your perspective towards it, like how you want to take it ahead. If you don't, then you don't. Otherwise, people also accept you. You have to prove yourself being a female. That's a bit difficult. Like first, we always say, first impression is the last impression. If you bang on that, then your route becomes very easy.
Great. Good. Thanks for sharing that story. That's very nice. So Nikki, you were talking about that mindfulness is the answer for this. So would you like to continue on that point? We muted you, so you have to unmute yourself to talk. There was some background noise.
I guess, Sachin, you have to unmute the person because that day you had unmuted me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So Swati, right, I really love your experience. It's wonderful to have women who are strong and put themselves out there. And the fact that you never felt any bias towards you, I think shows your personal inner strength, which is commendable. And it's not like women don't face bias. But I'd like to add to this, it's not that men don't face bias otherwise. This problem is there because in general, we are not, raised to be empathetic. We are part of, and it's not just this society, but many societies. Today, life is very fast-paced. Everybody is running because, there's a lot of competition out there. We are a hugely populated world that needs, a livelihood. And in order to keep a lifestyle or, your anybody's individual standards, takes a lot of work and cutthroat competition. In this process, over the generations, this is not something that has happened in one day. There is a tremendous lack of psychological safety in people who work. Because there are so many insecurities that come with a job. There are so many people who are constantly stressed about whether I'm going to be able to keep my job, especially today whether I'm going to continue getting paid, or if I'm an entrepreneur, how far will I succeed? What if somebody else comes with a better idea? So there are a lot of insecurities which leads to a lack of psychological safety. What mindfulness does is, in many ways, and in every way in fact, first of all, it teaches us to be positive, and not just hopelessly positive, but because of empathy building. When you become an empath towards others and towards yourself first, only when you're empathetic towards yourself can you be empathetic towards another person, right? So what empathy does is it allows you to give room to other people to be themselves, which automatically gets rid of a lot of your judgment problems and your insecurity issues, and you learn to be there in a supportive way for another. Why we need more inclusive spaces is that so that people can have a peaceful life. Life is not just about the goals and scores and making money and your charts and your sales charts and all of those things. If you have achieved everything but you go back home and you're not peaceful and happy, what is it all worth? It's worth nothing. So when we practice mindfulness, key thing is it helps us be empathetic towards ourselves, thus leading to being empathetic towards others, wherein we can create happier workspaces and happier home spaces. So for us, our ethos in our company and my whole, perceptions on which I built the organization is that we need to forget whether somebody is queer, whether somebody has a disability, whether somebody has a mental health issue, or anything that defines or categorizes diversity and inclusion in corporate terms. We need to forget all of that. When you meet somebody, you should be able to accept them just as they are without judging them. It's not about what company policies are incorporated, for you to, if you say something nasty to a queer person, you will be fired. We don't need to live under, or we shouldn't live under the sword of fear, but we should live by our own choices and make a conscious choice of considering the ethical implications of our actions towards others and ourselves.
So on this, what you just said,
yes.
I want to add something on this topic. That some months ago we were doing some work with a company, and diversity and inclusion was one of the topics that we were talking about.
Right.
Now, in this setup, what we are talking here, mindfulness. We talk about mindfulness is nothing but expanded awareness, and I want to ask one question to expand that awareness, and that question is in line with what you are talking right now. The question is that what exactly is not part of diversity? If we look at, two people will always be different,
Absolutely.
No matter what.
Absolutely.
Their preferences are different, their food habits are different, their values are different, their beliefs are different, their eye color is different, their hair color is different, their skin color is different, their voice is different. So there is only, the criteria to actually call something diverse is totally up to us. There could be 2 people, 5 people sitting right now. Let's say we are 5 people on this call.
Right.
Now in this call, I am diversity because I am the only male person over here. So again, it's the criteria by which we group something. So you can group yourself on the basis of gender and call there are 4 females and 1 male. So now you need to make me feel included. You have to do something to make me feel included, or I have to make myself feel included in this. We can perhaps create a criteria based on, I don't know, country or eye color or something, and then maybe 3 people will have similar eye color, 2 people will have different eye color. Then, so point is that we only come up with all these criteria to make someone feel different, and then we come up with the process of how to make them feel included. Whereas if we focus on the fact that we are all different anyway, we are all
Absolutely.
individuals. So who give us this power to actually group people in a certain way and then call someone disabled? The
Absolutely.
person may not have functioning hands, but then there could be people who don't have functioning brains also. There are so-called people who don't maybe have any mental health issue, but this
Right.
world is full of stupid people still.
Yeah. Let me add one thing on the mental health note to this. What you said is absolutely correct. We have defined all of these human beings, we have written and created all of these. First of all, our very understanding of mental health is incorrect. We have been raised to believe and understand that mental health is, the presence of something dangerous. For example, a person who has schizophrenia is going to attack you on the road suddenly, is going to hit you or harm themselves or get abusive on the street. It's not like that. We all have mental health issues. If I put out a question to the 4 other people right now on this call, can you say that you have never had depression? You have never had anxious moments when you have had anxiety attacks, or you have felt lonely, or
In fact,
isolated?
we were talking about fear and worry yesterday on the call itself.
Yeah.
We all have those factors. We all worry. We all have fears. We all have anger, frustration. But yeah, the degree is different for different people.
Yes. So what defines that degree is individual coping mechanism and ability. Whatever. So if I have been given, or if I have gone through certain life skills, if I am a more aware, self-aware person, then I will be able to cope with it better. If I tell you my life story, you'll probably cry your heart out, or vice versa. But what is it that makes you and me or the other people on this call stand out and have the ability to have this conversation right now is a higher level of self-awareness and consciousness.
Yeah. So and the resilience is different in different people. Some are more resilient, some are less resilient.
Absolutely. So therein, it is very, actually it's not right
that could
to
apply
say that,
to the
yeah.
part also, right? Not just only mental resilience. Some people are more physically resilient, some people are less physically resilient.
Absolutely,
How much
absolutely.
weight I can lift, you might be able to lift more weight than me.
Absolutely. So the more conscious we become of ourselves, the more conscious we become of our surrounding, of the people around us. It's like this circle, we are all interdependent. Nature is interdependent. You see, now there is a big problem with this quarantine for stray animals, because we never realized over the years that our lifestyle and the structures that we have created is helping their survival. Our stray dogs are no longer wild dogs that can go and hunt for themselves, right? And now there is this big problem of feeding them, so they're going to fall sick. So you see, what I'm trying to say is that this is a chain. We are all interdependent. If you observe nature, animals don't judge one another, they just are. I'll just share this story. There is a cat. Actually, there are quite a few cats in my society that I feed. One of them is more acquainted with us and even comes inside. She has her timings, right? She'll come. If there's food, she'll have it and she'll leave. If there's no food, she'll just wait and she'll see. If there's nothing, we tell her, well, there's nothing. She'll just go and come back the next day and do the same thing. There's no anger, there's no judgment, there is no feelings of hatred that, oh, yesterday you did not feed me, so I'm not going to come to your door again. You see, because animals don't have an ego. They just want to survive. And they're happy with whatever they receive.
Yeah. I mean, again, linking back to your topic on queerness, um, that is someone's personal preference of what their sexuality and all that is. What has that got to do with the job? That is another question as well. That we are we are judging someone on the basis of their skills and competencies. In
Absolutely.
my private life, what my preferences are, what kind of food I want to eat, or what kind of sexuality I want to have is, unless it's related to the job I'm applying, then I can understand. But then why does
Correct.
it even become a criteria? That is a little puzzling to me. That why does it even become a criteria to judge someone and make them feel that you are different?
Yeah. The reason is that, I mean, this is my personal opinion, so I hold back the reservations. Sex is in society very overrated. We have given so much focus and attention to sex and made such a big deal out of it, which is a topic for probably another time's discussion. I can really go on about that. But because, see, food is an accepted thing, right? Everybody is expected to eat food. We are raised, society, if you are ever interested in the history of sociology, you'll see that we've created the concept of family also. Neanderthal man did not have marriage. They lived, they hunted, or they survived, they mated just like animals, and they moved on in life. They had no attachments. As we grew, as we evolved psychologically, we invented, we created, because we are the intelligent species with the ability, with also the physical capacity of doing more than animals. That is what is the difference between us and animals. Now, over the years, we created all these things. So there's a reason why, centuries ago, they created the concept of marriage. It was to control society so that people aren't going wild and, probably having 50 children from 100 wives. So there were reasons, there were very scientific and social reasons behind it, to control illness, to control social disorder, and a lot of other things. But this did not mean that people, we don't change with time. They say change is the only constant. And the biggest problem is that we don't have acceptance for this change. So when we talk about sexuality in the workspace, often it bothers people that, oh, I don't have the courage, or this is not the normal because I am not doing it. Because we relate everything to ourselves. This is where lack of knowledge, awareness, and information plays a key role. If you know and accept that there are all kinds of people in this world, then no queer person will ever need to announce physically or verbally or in any way express that they are queer, because it does not matter.
It doesn't, and that is, I think that is exactly the point I am also trying to highlight, that because we make so much sound and we are trying to that is the point, that we have to talk about inclusivity as well. If this shouldn't matter, then we don't even have to talk about inclusivity. So in corporate also, my argument over here is that why does this even become a factor, that we are evaluating the person on their competency and their skills, fitness for the job that they are doing. If their preference around this matters to the job that they are doing, definitely then I need to evaluate that.
Absolutely.
But if it doesn't matter, then why is that even a topic?
Yeah. It's a topic because people feel that, see, what happens is, why do companies need to come up with policies to, let's say, protect the rights or the privacy or the space of a queer person? Is because, again, we have so many judgments, no? We want to say, "Are e chakke," call people names out, or say, "Are he's so gay, oh my God, look at his body language." And in layman words, this is how I put it. I say, if everybody just minds their own business, we'd be really happy all the time.
Exactly. I think that's the bottom line of it. That we are bringing certain prejudice or our fears or our judgment to workplace where there is not even a place for it.
Absolutely.
That kind of judgment or prejudice serves nothing in our workplace, and it just it causes more problems than it actually solves.
And this has got, I mean, that's why I believe that diversity and inclusion is not merely about LGBT community or any particular community. It is related to all of us human beings. You see, we are constantly judging and saying, why are you so fat?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you so thin? I mean, I am overweight. My husband is extremely thin, and I've always had this conversation initial years of my marriage with my mother-in-law. She used to tell her son, "Why are you so thin? Put on some weight." And she used to tell me, "Why are you so fat? Lose some weight." So no matter what it is, we are just judging people. And I'll tell you something. I've been working with the LGBT community for many years now, and I have faced stigma from the LGBT community. So, which is where I learned that this is a very human thing. It is just human psychology. It is just the way that we have learned to live our lives.
We have some other signals.
Absolutely.
I also feel like that we also had a team member before in Buji, who was a first person, and I felt that he was somewhere always trying to make up or something like that. A lot of times the community also comes from a point of proving themselves, and I think then it becomes a little more of a tussle. So we were not like the clients were fine, we were fine, but at some point we had to kind of share this, and give this feedback that you don't have to prove yourself.
Correct.
But because it's not usually the response maybe, or I don't know what, but it did happen like that. And then I saw the other side of the story. I was like, okay, the community constantly has to prove, and it has become so part of the DNA now. They are constantly.
Yes.
The verbal acknowledgement wasn't there. So we did a retreat, and this person helped us as a coordinator in that retreat. So the retreat required us to stay there for 2-3 days. So it was a residence.
Right.
It was always around. And everyone was okay, right? Totally fine. Like, I think I would just say it didn't even occur to anyone to even talk about it. It's just like took it completely normal. But perhaps he was having this habit that someone has to verbally acknowledge the fact, and because verbal acknowledgement wasn't there, so he felt a need to talk about it. He probably felt that maybe people are not talking because they are feeling shy about it.
Yeah.
Whereas they were not even thinking anything about it.
And it's just another question for everybody, and this organization we work with, they are very open. They come from very open culture, and they already have these things happening in the organization. It's not a big thing. But suddenly we realized that it's a need of the community also to be acknowledged in a different way. And then when we say I am different and acknowledge me as different, then and then give me inclusion. I don't know why we have to go this loop also. I mean, even women, I have seen board meetings, other C-level people, 2-3 women, they would like to prove or they would like to make a point just because there are only 2 of them or something, and they would come out and tell us also that we have to do this. I'm like, yeah, you have to, but let me sense also sometimes that if it's not fitting, you might as well leave it there. People's presence is felt, it's not. But then it's the other way also, that people have to prove themselves. People who feel not included, there is a tendency. So that also comes in the way of inclusion sometimes. Now that there is inclusion, now on the other side there is this whole need for proving, which comes in the way. But this is my observation. I don't know. You would know better. you work with
That-
more people.
Pragya or Swati, do you have any inputs on this and your observations? So I know, Swati, you mentioned you don't have much experience around this, but maybe just like a life experience or anything, or Pragya,
One experience I remember on this, okay, and I feel guilty now. There was one man who came for an interview as in my replacement. I was looking for in my second organization. Okay, he was when I had called for the interview. I had told my security there is a girl who's gonna come. Okay, it's Kiran. So and when by 11 o'clock that person reached to my place in my office, it was security came to me like, ma'am, that person had came. Okay, I was like, okay, fine. And when that came in front of me, it's a boy, it's a male candidate, okay. And ideally, I was expecting a female candidate because his sound was completely female. His vocal cord had some issue, and I could not stop myself. Like, you know, he upfrontly said, if you want to laugh, you can laugh, Swati. That's fine. I have this experience in front of me always. I was like, I mean, how come I could not see his CV that way? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes,
I can hear you.
we just muted ourselves so no background noise or anything while you're talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah. So then that man, then I had interviewed him, and then he was not suitable because he had worked in IT, and we were looking for someone who would lead the manufacturing plant. So then that competency I had not found in him, and that's the reason we have rejected. But at first instant, I said, like, you know, I feel bad, or after that as well, I felt bad. Like, I could not recognize he's a man, and when he came in front of me, it was shock, and that was not unexpectedly, you know, that happened. It was not intentionally, or I wanted to, you know, insult him or something like that. And he had also accepted it. So he had accepted himself in that way. So I asked him, like, how come and all. So he had told me his story that he met with an accident and burned his neck and a lot of things. So that's the reason his vocal cord got affected and this and that. So
Yeah.
I asked him, like, are you?
Yes, Swati, there are, I'm just saying that there are certain instances when females are probably better at doing something, or in some cases males are better at doing something. So that is what I was saying, that unless when we are doing a job interview those things matter about someone's sexuality or gender, or those things matter, then we evaluate. But if it doesn't matter, then those becomes just irrelevant factors. But again, some cases it matters. Some jobs, you know, like you want to have a caring or more softer voice or a face in front, so it's better to have a female presence than a male presence, and that's just playing with the strengths of the gender, not really any other reason, but it just feels better to, you know, like that kind of jobs exist.
I feel that it all boils down to what Nikki mentioned at the very beginning, that how mindful are we, and are we able to see diversity and inclusion as just a natural thing that's happening all the time. When there is no need to accept, acceptance is there by default. There is the need to accept also has to drop sometime to just acceptance to exist. So it's like it is what it is. We don't store air because we have abundance of it. It's like that also. No? So I feel,
Why I had shared this incident is not because male versus female or something like that. It is just that mindfulness or the acceptance to it. That we were discussing, no? And I thought on it, like, you know. So that was not. I was not able to accept it. First of all, like till 3 weeks, I was expecting that to come as a female. And then suddenly it came as a man in front of me. That is what I was thinking, like, and
smiling.
We
also
had
had
an
an
employee like
experience.
that.
Yeah.
I had an employee like that. So we hired that person, but when you were talking, we were smiling because and we were thinking, was it the same person? Uh, he had a female voice, and we were also shocked that when this guy turned up that he was actually male. But yeah, I know that
It could
I
be
had
an
that
experience.
experience.
Yeah. It could be one of these things when you don't expect much.
Katya, anything from your
Right. Well, if I talk about the male, female and everything, I could share my own personal experience. When I joined this organization, I was the second female into this company. Okay. And since my company deals into the US and the Canada market, so except me and my team, rest entire everyone comes into the night shift. Okay. So initially, like if I talk about my overall population, like 95% of us hails from either UP or Bihar. Okay. So their overall mindset is like that. If someone is coming into a leadership position, okay, or let's say if it's a female, then they're still into the back of their mind that, okay, fine, the female maximize what they're supposed to do once they grow up. After their studies, they're looking forward to get them married as per the parents' choice and then settle down. No career ambitions, nothing as such. So it was hard for my team in the initial phases, not only to accept me, but anybody, if we are asking anyone to come down for the interviews and all, okay, for the night shift as well, for the females specifically, okay. So they were very much bit adamant that we don't want to hire females, most of the managers, okay. And then I sat down with them and I tried to understand that what exactly is the mindset behind it, what's wrong in it. So be it a male, be it a female, or be it a person from any other community. What is wrong? If the person is competent enough to do your work, then why this hesitance? Why these things? So they cleared out these things with me, okay. And I don't know if had it been anyone else into my situation would have to even face that kind of a thing. That why they were adamant. And still some teams are adamant. They don't want to hire mom-dom guys, okay, apart from the male-female if I'm talking about. Still there are some teams which don't want to hire people from the southern part of the country, which is a very rare ratio in my current company. Like out of 400 people, I can say, I can quote that there will not be more than 4 to 5 people who are from the southern India background. Okay. And in 2010, I moved to Bangalore to explore that, okay, fine, that apart from Delhi NCR, there could be any other place where I can explore my career options and everything. So a lot of biasness I have faced at that point in time over there at my working place, but I was open to talk about it. So I spoke to my manager, I spoke to my subordinates that, okay, fine, I come across from a different background where I could not understand your language, but does that make or give you guys any right to speak to me into that thing, while specifically at a workplace where we are working? So these are certain things that I happen to face during my career transitions, okay. But somehow, like, if I talk about me, since my childhood, I have been living at multiple places, okay, with multiple communities and all. So I do not find that kind of biasness, okay, that this person is hailing from Maharashtra and I'm not able to understand their language, okay, so I should not move ahead in terms of recruiting them, or this person is from southern part of the country or anything as such. But the kind of acceptance I happen to have, I don't think so that most of us are exposed even to these conditions, that they can go ahead and accept the people the way they are. Like if I talk about my parents, any one of us, like as a kid, if we go ahead and announce them that, okay, fine, I'm a lesbian or I'm a gay, okay, I don't know how they're going to react, or I don't know what will be their next set of reactions based on to that. But since most of us are dealing at the workplaces with multiple communities, with multiple other regions, okay, that with multiple other people with a different kind of mindset, we have made ourselves acquainted. We are exposed, okay. So somehow we have adjusted our mindset that, okay, we are open for all of them. But that has still not happened to most of us. And how can we go ahead and change that mindset? Like into the night shift, if I talk about, we have a maternity policy and everything into the place. But most of the females, as soon as they're on the verge of getting married and all, okay, they leave the companies because somehow their in-laws are not comfortable making them working into the night shifts and things like that. At the time of my own marriage, okay, I had faced a lot of rejections due to this because my shift timings were like somewhere around 1 or 2 during the day timings, and it goes up to 11, 12. At times I'm returning at 4 o'clock also in the morning. So the families which were not comfortable with this overall situation, they clearly denied that, okay, fine, that post-marriage you cannot continue with this kind of a job. You have to look out for a day shift, proper day shift kind of a job or anything as such. And that was like that I should be able to decide about my own career ambitions. I should be able to change my job when I want to. It should not be the decision of someone else managing my life.
Yeah,
So,
very important.
yeah.
But at times, if you're not vocal about what you want, at times when you're not vocal about what you feel, okay, so you will always be misinterpreted. Or there could be a possibility the other person thinks that, okay, fine, whatever I'm saying to him or her, that I have accepted it and I'm okay with it. So that is something that we need to come a long way of, okay. Because at times if I watch any kind of Hollywood movies which is based on to a fashion criteria and everything, we always happen to have someone, if a male person is working into that industry, he has to be gay. I just do not understand the concept behind it. Why? Just because he's dealing with a lot of females and then he become acquainted with their like overall body language and everything, then it has to be a gay. But for what? And why it has to be shown across?
Nikki wants to say something.
Yeah, on this note, I just wanted to say, well, it is a fact that there are a higher number of gay fashion designers or hairdressers or in the creative industry. The reason behind that actually is because queer people are more creative. Okay, they are more creative because creativity is a huge way to express, and all these jobs are a form of art, right? Being a hairdresser, it's an art. Being a fashion designer, it's an art, or a costume or any kind of designing, which is why they are better designers. It's not the fact that they have associated with women more that has made them gay. And so these are misperceptions, myths, misunderstandings that we have. And I just wanted to add one thing. What happens is, if you notice families that have a couple, let's say you have an Indian woman who's married to a German guy, all right? If you see the combination of the child that they have, you'll observe that this child is far more open-minded, okay, has very broad perspectives towards life, and is in many ways diverse and inclusive already as they grow into adulthood. Whereas families that are, and this is cross-cultural. In many cultures, they have within the same caste, within the same family, within the same whatever. What does this lead to? It leads to families, okay, and these are the more narrow-minded, orthodox, fundamentalist families. Why? Because of the lack of awareness, expansion of knowledge, and intermingling. It's the same mentality that is being passed on to each generation, generation after generation. Some of them are brave enough, rebellious enough, or strong enough to break free from those roots and reinvent and recreate themselves. But all of them do not have that. And so what happens is, it's the same unquestioned traditions that are passed on, and you'll see that these people are the ones who are just, there's a complete lack of awareness, there's no mindfulness, they're just living, they don't thrive.
Yeah, and anybody who doesn't follow the rule is bad or wrong.
Exactly, because they don't want to. And why is that? The fear of change. I don't know if you guys watch animated movies, but there's a very brilliant animated movie. I love animated movies because they have the capacity to show us what a regular movie cannot. And there's this very nice movie. I can't remember the name, but it's about this family that lives in a cave. It's the caveman story, and how this father is afraid of letting the daughter go, who wants to follow the son. The Croods. Yes, that's the one. I think that is one movie that everybody needs to learn to understand how parenting skills, upbringing of a child affect, your formation of thoughts and beliefs as you grow older. So there it says like our marriages lack diversity and inclusion.
Very well said.
Which is why we need to reconstruct society in general.
Beautiful.
It was a great discussion.
Amazing, yeah. So this call is at 11 to 12 and it's 12:07. So yeah, we've come to our end of the time today. But we do these calls, as you know, from Wednesday to Sundays, and we do have a call tomorrow. All three of you, amazing contribution, beautiful authenticity. Thank you so much.
And since there is no topic agenda of these calls, we don't have to the idea is that we don't have to wrap up or anything like that. We can continue this conversation tomorrow as well. We can pick up where we leave. If there is more to say, if someone feels that I still have some more things to discuss or talk about, then we'll pick it up tomorrow and we'll continue.
I never run out of things to say.
That's nice. It's always nice to have you then.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
More people also, because it's a Sunday, some people can't manage to join in. So, yeah, it would be nice to have you. Again, Swati has been regularly coming and it's been beautiful with you guys also.
Just before we leave, I wanted to let others know that Nikki has a YouTube channel called Mad By.
Oh, yeah.
And she delivers these sensitive topics in comedy songs.
Yeah,
she's a comedian.
Like a stand-up.
Nikki, you want to say anything on that?
See, like a line, because everybody needs to know.
Right. Okay. I have to get into character first. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could do a little bit tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
You got me asked.
Right,
yeah. कल करेगा, अभी कैसे आज नहीं था, कल भाई को बुला के लाएगा झाड़ू पोछा मारने.
वैसे भाई आ नहीं रही है, कोई तो वर्चुअली तो आएगी एटलीस्ट.
नहीं, भाई लोग का आराम चल रहा है अभी, भाई लोग रेस्ट कर रहे हैं.
I know they're chilling.
Yeah.
That's a sweet one. Thank you so much, guys, and see you tomorrow.
Sure, thank you. It was lovely.
Lovely.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.